Mall of America, the largest shopping complex in the United States. A building 1,470 feet in length and just as wide.
This building is more than 5.6 million square feet.
A veritable juggernaut in the heart of Minnesota. A gigantic building that could house the equivalent of 74 football fields. A daily technological and logistical challenge. One that requires ingenious solutions to limit management costs. Particularly in terms of energy, in a city where temperatures are sub-zero for 6 months of the year.
We don't have a central heating system. We create this flywheel effect of absorbing heat, giving off heat. The building actually breathes the heat back and forth into the interior of the property.
A determination to apply a sustainable development policy is the key to the way Mall of America is run. This colossal and innovative concept, combining shopping and leisure, is a veritable living space that needed its own network of roads and trains. It even has a subway station and an airport a few minutes away.
We have more than 520 stores. We have more than 60 places to dine. We have an indoor amusement park with more than 27 rides and attractions. We have events. Every year we host more than 400 events. This is a city within a city.
A city within a city that has seen the development of numerous hotels within its perimeter to welcome tourists from all over the world. This vast space can keep people entertained for days on end, with its 8 cinemas, 14 discotheques, a chapel, and coming soon, a colossal indoor aquatic park. People even get married here, among the sharks.
We are a destination for entertainment and fun. We're so much more than a shopping center.
The task of making this colossus rise from the ground brought many challenges. No building of this size had ever been built in the area.
Local community said this is not going to work. I'm ashamed to say I was one of them. I'm so happy I was proven wrong.
The task of making this colossus rise from the ground brought many challenges. No building of this size had ever been built in the area.
Some of the challenges we faced were the cities weren't big enough. They didn't have the infrastructure to support the roads, to support the electricity, to support the sewer systems or the water supply system.
In a city with little international standing, the chances of success for such a concept seem slim. And yet the mall attracts 40 million visitors every year, 4 times more than the 10 million drawn by Disneyland Paris.
So there's always a surprise coming around the corner.
This is really a one-stop shop for entertainment.
But why build such a large complex in this sparsely populated state in the Midwest of the United States?
We just didn't understand how bold, how visionary, how exciting this project would be.
How has the mall remained the largest in the United States for 30 years? How has it been able to preserve its preeminence for so long? How to manage such an influx of visitors on a daily basis and guarantee everyone's safety? And how to maintain such a gargantuan structure? Let's take a look behind the scenes of this XXL leisure construction. Bloomington, -5 degrees Fahrenheit. Located in the state of Minnesota in the Great Lakes region near the Canadian border, every year Bloomington finds itself in the grip of extremely cold weather. For 6 months out of every 12, temperatures are sub-zero, sometimes dropping as low as 5 degrees Fahrenheit, colder than the most northern European capitals. Right in the center of this city of 90,000 inhabitants is a vast terrain that had many existences before becoming the gigantic shopping and leisure center we see here today.
Originally, this was native land, and then it was a sheep farm for many, many, many years. And then in the late 50s, early 60s, the community built a sports center here, a stadium. And they brought in professional baseball and football and soccer. The Beatles played their only concert in Minnesota right here on our property back in 1965. Had thousands of screaming 12-year-old girls. It was a phenomenal event.
Dan Jasper, originally from Minnesota, is Vice President of Communications for the complex. After attending the opening of the Mall of America, he immediately became one of its most loyal customers. But before that, he already had close links to the location. His father owned some land here, sold for a relatively paltry sum when the stadium was built. He tells us how, after its heyday, the emblematic stadium ended up in decline.
When Metropolitan Stadium was on this ground, and it was getting to be an old, outdated stadium, the business force in this community was downtown. That's where all the economic activity was happening. And they decided they wanted to build a stadium downtown to drive more business for hotels, for restaurants, for shops. So they built a new stadium downtown called the Metrodome, which left this stadium empty and desolate.
The Met Center is due to be imploded shortly.
3, 2, 1, fire!
The city of Bloomington decided to try to figure out what would be best use for this property. The city of Bloomington actually put out a worldwide request for proposals. What should we build here? Some people came back and said, let's build hotels and apartment complexes. Some said, let's build housing. Some said, let's build office towers.
The metropolis of Minneapolis-St. Paul, known as the Twin Cities, already had a surplus of office space, and the residential housing market was slow. In addition, a sales density figure for retail trade of 1.2 per inhabitant was much lower than the national average of 18. In this context, a commercially oriented option was looked upon favorably, and of all the proposals, one in particular caught the attention of Bloomington Port Authority, the public agency that owned the site. It was the ambitious plans of a Canadian family, the Germaisians, who ran a flourishing group with retail trade interests.
It's a company called 555 Corporation. It's a privately held company by the Germaisian family.
The family started up in West Edmonton, Canada, so our sister property, West Edmonton Mall, was built 10 years prior to Mall of America.
They used to come down to go to the Mayo Clinic, a world-famous clinic in Minnesota. And they would land at the airport, which is right next to Mall of America, and they saw this property, and they said that would be the perfect location for an even bigger, an even better, and an even more amazing mall. And that is the project that the city of Bloomington chose.
The Germaisians, drawing on their experience with West Edmonton, Canada's first mall, opened in 1981, had ambitions to make the area a veritable showcase of American civilization. The initial plan, slated to cost over $1 billion, had to be scaled back because the banks did not want to extend such large credit. A more realistic project was finally approved, and despite everything, it represented a colossal investment.
It cost $650 million. So of that $650 million, the private partners, including the Germaisian family, invested most of that. But the public partner, which was the city of Bloomington, invested $108 million. But some of the challenges we faced were the cities weren't big enough. They didn't have the infrastructure to support the roads, to support the electricity, to support the sewer systems or the water supply system. They didn't have enough people on staff who could oversee all the permits, who could do the inspections. So they had to hire a lot of people. They had to bring on contractors and consultants, all of this to make sure we could overcome each one of these different challenges along the way, because we'd never done anything like this before in Minnesota.
Tom Rabiola is one of the project's pioneers and was present at the very beginning when construction started. A veritable mine of information, he knows every nook and cranny of the building and is now in charge of its maintenance.
The place was changing. I mean, I would walk someplace one day and then next day I couldn't walk there because they built the wall. So it was changing daily, and to see that all kind of come together, I was a little concerned about us being a deadline for opening, but everybody came together and made this thing happen.
A team of multidisciplinary experts was assembled to tackle the biggest architectural challenge the city had ever faced: construction of a gigantic building 1,475 feet long and just as wide. But concerns arose as soon as work began.
We actually started construction in June of 1989. A beautiful summer Minnesota day, about 42 degrees Fahrenheit and cold. And the headlines in the paper the next day said, "Why Minnesota?" ? We just didn't understand how bold, how visionary, how exciting this project would be.
Several sites were launched, hiring thousands of construction workers. Against a backdrop of severe economic hardship, this was a real boon for locals.
After we broke ground in 1989, it was actually an economic recession then, and there was a lack of jobs, no construction jobs in this community. This project put 10,000 workers to work. It helped support 10,000 families as they built this project over almost a 3-year span. So all of the local construction companies, all of the subcontractors, all of the people that make furniture, they were all given an economic boost during the period between 1989 and 1992. So at a time when there were no jobs in this area, this building brought life and hope and economic prosperity.
Getting the center built in the freezing climate of the region was a real challenge. A frantic pace had to be maintained to meet deadlines and bring the project to fruition. It was a tall order for the thousands of workers toiling on the open-air sites, and a real headache for engineers who had to incorporate the weather aspect into their schedule, with the transport of many tons of concrete and glass on snowy roads an additional challenge. The unusual circumstances led to a series of unforeseen events, perfectly in keeping with the scale of this double XL construction. To tackle the many challenges, both budgetary and climatic, an experienced architect was needed at the helm, one who could show both creativity and endurance.
They chose the architect, John Jurdy, because he had a reputation of doing big projects, and he could bring a life and a spark to them.
John Jurdy could claim to be the brains behind several prestigious Las Vegas hotel casinos, such as the Bellagio, the Wynn, and the Palms, not to mention a score of skyscrapers in China.
He had a vision on creating new shopping venues, new areas that are kind of town halls, places that can bring community together. He had unique challenges in Minnesota. He had worked on the West Coast and other areas. Here we have the weather to compete with. We have cold Minnesota winters. We have rainy falls and springs. And he had to create an environment that was welcoming, that was like this giant city within a city, that once you walked into it, you were welcomed with sunshine and plants and a lot of light and life and vibrancy.
To achieve the desired result and make this monster on a human scale rise from the ground, the plans had to ensure smooth-flowing traffic among a large assembly of buildings.
The outside architecture is a large square property building, and then each corner of that building is a major anchor store. Basically an EIFS insulated panel building. Not a lot of glass on the outside walls, but a lot of glass on the roof. So we have about 300,000 square feet of skylight.
More than 98,000 feet of glass, a gigantic surface representing the equivalent of at least 7 football fields. A real feat of technology that aims to capture as much light as possible.
It's a very big building. It's 5.6 million square feet. You walk around just one lap on one level, it's 1.1 miles. It's a big building, but it doesn't always feel that way.
A phenomenal volume that could contain 10 Great Pyramids of Egypt or 18 Roman Colosseums.
You don't get that long vista view, so there's always a surprise coming around the corner. So as you come down a street and turn a corner, you have another street. So there's another street to go down and discover new tenants, new places. It's kind of a racetrack kind of layout. So you're not going up and down and branching out to different areas. You're basically just walking in a circle. So it's a constant meandering throughout the whole property.
And that way, this giant building also feels kind of like a series of small neighborhoods that are streamed together.
To enter this huge 28-yard-high, 4-story building, 27 entrances were planned, making it accessible from all 4 sides. And it would take no less than 52 escalators and 34 elevators to navigate its interior.
3 floors of retail. We have a 4th floor on the east side and on the south side. The south side is our theaters. On the east side is more of an entertainment, bar, restaurant type theme. But the other 3 floors are mainly a mix of retail attractions and restaurants. We have 2 food courts on our 3rd floor, one on the north and one on the south. They're quite large. They probably have a capacity of about 1,000 people on each court. So you can imagine a property this large with all those visitors, you got to feed them. You want them to stay, you want them to have everything here, spend a lot of time here, and having all those amenities really helps accomplish that.
From the start, the challenge was to compensate for the external sobriety of the construction with a rich interior architecture, offering a wide range of atmospheres and very different environments for each of the 4 wings.
When the mall first opened in 1992, each of those 4 sides had a distinct feel.
The north side, which we're on right now, was called North Garden. So it was not a straight corridor, it's more of a winding walk, a lot of plantscape, that type of thing. The south side was more of a I guess a higher-end retailer.
The east side was called East Broadway. It was bright, it was brash, it was silver, it was light. It was like Broadway, New York. The west side, the side we're looking at now, was copper and brass and green, and it was meant to represent a European train station.
After 3 years of work on August 11th, 1992, the Mall of America finally opened its doors to general pandemonium. 150,000 people showed up on the first day. The publicity surrounding a project that had aroused so much skepticism fueled the curiosity of local inhabitants. In such a cold state, the prospect of multiple indoor activities enthused a population that had never seen a building of this size before, with its amusement park, 50 restaurants, and 520 stores. Spending 10 minutes in each of them, a tour of the mall would take no less than 86 hours.
You can spend the whole day here and have fun. It's always sunny and 72 inside, so even in the winter months, you can come here and enjoy yourself.
We have 8 acres of skylight, so you have the sunlight just beaming down that just feels warmth and comforting, even though it's winter outside.
We don't have a central heating system. Typically in a property of this size, in an environment where we're located in Minnesota, where it does get cold in the wintertime, heating systems are normal, right? This property is different. It's actually heated with the internal heat gain through lighting. All the lighting gives off heat. That all comes into the interior space. The people walking around, your body gives off heat and brings it into the space. The skylights, sun shines through those skylights, heats the property, heats the floor structures, the walls, any kind of material in the mall. All that material is just absorbing that heat throughout the day. And then at night, when all those elements are limited or very small, those materials are giving that heat back to the interior space. So we create this flywheel effect of absorbing heat, giving off heat. The building actually breathes the heat back and forth into the interior of the property. And for that reason, we maintain a comfortable environment throughout the day.
The natural heating system maintains an ambient temperature of 71 degrees Fahrenheit. This heat is partly provided by the presence of people in the mall. Some even arrive very early, before the mall's official opening, which helps warm the building.
We have 30,000 live plants and trees, so you're surrounded by this greenery. Really, you're inside, but it feels like you're outside in this wonderland.
We have about 98% real plants in the mall. So there are plants that basically thrive in the indoor in a warmer climate. So a lot of the plants that you'll see in the common area are basically indoor plants. In the amusement park, you'll see a lot of tropical plants, plants that you typically wouldn't see in Minnesota in this cold weather. You'll see palm trees and more exotic type plants, but a good variety. And then also the plants that are indigenous to Minnesota. So you'll see some pine trees, those type of things that really kind of capture the Minnesota feel. We have a dedicated team that takes care of those plants day to day. We think it gives a more natural feel and a real feel to the environment. And plants always, I think they always bring the outside in a little bit and have a good feel for it. And it's good for the environment. It cleans the air. And when you go into the amusement park, you'll see it's like you're being outside.
It took no less than 65 trailers to bring all this vegetation to the shopping center. Nature is very present throughout the mall, particularly within the amusement park, a 3-acre space in the center of the building that has undergone several changes over the years.
A 7-acre amusement park within a retail mall is something unusual and unique.
The nation's largest indoor theme park. People don't believe me when I say we have a theme park with roller coasters and a log chute and fun rides and kiddie rides.
Originally, it was a partnership between Mall of America and Knott's Berry Farm, which is a West Coast, California-based amusement park. At that time, it was called Knott's Camp Snoopy, so it was branded with Knott's, but it was a Camp Snoopy theme. And in 2006, that agreement with Knott's Camp Snoopy ended. We self-branded for a year or two, and then eventually signed a partnership agreement with Nickelodeon. That Nickelodeon partnership created a lot of opportunities for us. They had a television show and other things. We currently have about 27 attractions in the amusement park. We usually change out a larger thrill ride every 2 or 3 years. A lot of our rides that we get that are new are prototype rides, so they're not anywhere else. They come here. Again, just bring something new so people come here. More local people that come here every day will have something new to experience.
The fun and entertainment aspect is an essential element. In addition to its amusement park, the Mall of America contains an 8,000 square foot Lego play area that boasts the world's largest robot made from 2.8 million pieces. It also offers 2 mini golf courses, as well as Fly Over America, a flight simulation ride that takes passengers on a trip across the United States.
This is really a one-stop shop for entertainment. We have movie theaters and a comedy club. We have axe throwing.
Among the other entertainments offered are go-karting and escape games, with 60 minutes to solve puzzles, escape from a prison, or explore space. As well as Sea Life, a 1,320,000 gallon aquarium that houses 10,000 creatures devouring more than 100 pounds of food per day. It features a 328-foot-long tunnel where visitors can observe marine life and even sharks. Not a creature often sighted in the middle of Minnesota.
Crazy story, we had a wedding inside the shark tank, and the family was in this tunnel able to watch.
But the complex could not survive by reaching out only to the local population. To give it a real chance of success, those in charge knew from the outset that the project had to be made easily accessible for out-of-state visitors. An imposing road infrastructure had to be developed, causing a real urban upheaval in the metropolis.
Mall of America is situated at an intersection of two primary road systems in the Twin Cities area. But we had to build off-ramps and on-ramps and access roads and parking roads.
The development of this colossal infrastructure was one of the major challenges for this particular American dream. The city of Bloomington and the state of Minnesota had to invest millions in a road network to facilitate visitor access. A subway station has even been built within the mall, carrying 1 million visitors a year.
Mall of America is special because of our location. We're right in the middle of Minnesota, across the street from the International Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport. So our close proximity to the airport makes it very convenient for guests to be able to get here.
So you can land at the airport 1.5 miles away and easily come here. You can take train here. You can take bus here. We have the busiest transit hub between Denver and Chicago. More than 2 million guests every year. And the light rail train that goes from Minneapolis and St. Paul originates right here at Mall of America. We are station number 1. Here at Mall of America, we have 2 giant ramps. Together, they have more than 12,550 spaces to park in, and we have several surface lots. Our total parking on site is more than 20,000 parking spaces. However you arrive, including bike parking, we'll have a space for you, and we'll get you into the building and welcome you.
It is the second largest car park in the world, behind that of its cousin, the West Edmonton Mall, big enough to welcome national as well as international customers. 40% of the clientele is made up of tourists from all over the United States, as well as from other continents. One consequence of the impressive number of people passing through is, unsurprisingly, the number of incidents. They are frequent, they are of every type, and they require special vigilance.
You know, at Mall of America, we are like a city within a city. On any given day, there's more than 100,000 people in this building. Stuff happens. Mostly what happens are people can't find their cars because it's big and we have 2 parking ramps that look alike. Another thing that happens is people can't find their kids. They got separated, so we reunify families. By the way, we've always gotten them back together. Another thing that happens is shoplifting, right? We have 520 stores. There are bad characters that want to steal things. We apprehend most of them, and we charge them under the law, so people know not to do this.
And given the freezing cold weather conditions that paralyze the area for half of the year, the mall also hosts all kinds of events traditionally held outdoors, such as demonstrations.
Surrounding 2 silver trees in the rotunda of the Mall of America, hundreds of protesters chanted. Roaring so loud, they drowned out the mall's loudspeaker system, warning them to leave the property.
To manage these protests and any potential infringements, the mall has the assistance of the Minneapolis Police, State Police, and Federal Police, in addition to its own security team. This team of several dozen highly qualified personnel is trained to deal with such incidents. One unit even uses bicycles to get from one end of the mall to the other as quickly as possible in the event of an incident. Another special team of operatives is the K-9 unit, trained to detect the presence of possible explosives.
We have cameras throughout the mall so that we can watch and detect if there are issues. Those can be critical, bad issues, or good issues. It could be we see a fight in one area of the mall. We need to get officers there. Or it could be we have a large crowd gathering in front of a store. We need to get stanchions over there to form a line.
Over the years, the building has undergone a range of innovations and benefited from a great deal of investment. A first wave of upgrades was imposed after 20 years of activity to meet the expectations of modern customers and evolving trends, as the mall's managers commissioned some major renovations.
The mall looked different when we opened in 1992 than it does today. We continue to invest in this property because that felt a little dated. It had carpeting, it had brass and some old colors. And we worked with some new designers over the past decade and said, we want to invest in this property. How do we make it fresh? How do we make it exciting?
So in 2011, we partnered with an architect and really discovered that the tenants are really the showcase of the property. So we redesigned the interior to create more of a modern, blank canvas for the tenants to really pop.
And the idea was to come up with the palette that you see today, which is white and bright and lights. It's a blank canvas. It's fresh, it's clean, it's inspiring. It's been the ideal update to what our original design was.
The owners made a pretty large investment, and we changed from lighting, flooring, a lot of ceramic tile. It really lends to that more modern feel.
For this energy-intensive building, electricity represents a significant cost. But the installation of 5,400 LED bulbs has reduced energy costs by 2/3.
The city had some certain requirements for light pollution and light levels in the parking garage, but going to that LED lighting really gave some great enhancements to being in the parking garage. Number one, the color rendition, when you've seen things on cameras for like security, you can see the colors a lot better. And the light spill out into the environment was dramatically reduced.
New expansion projects will soon double the size of the mall to 10 million square feet. The northern section will be expanded to accommodate the largest indoor water park in the United States.
West Edmonton Mall had a water park first, and then New Jersey built theirs with DreamWorks as a partner, and because of that success, now we're adding a water park to Mall of America. So we do share in best practices, but we also want to differentiate ourselves to make sure guests come and visit all three properties and know that it'll be a different experience.
Dozens of slides and attractions, along with millions of gallons of water, with an entrance fee of around $60. Construction is estimated to cost $250 million, and the park is scheduled to open in 2024.
The key element is we're creating our own theming. A giant lake with a pirate ship that cuts the lake in half, and there will be rides and other things, and you can use your day not just to go swimming, not just to be in the wave pool, not just to do the slides, to become immersed in a story. So we're creating this entire backstory that when guests come, they're gonna know the Mall of America water park, who our characters are. Personally, I want to be the captain of the pirate ship.
The Mall of America has been the largest mall in the United States for 30 years, boasting multi-acre amusement parks and innovative engineering solutions to limit energy expenditure through the harnessing of natural heating, for example. Today, 30 years after its opening, this behemoth still attracts 40 million visitors a year, 4 times more than Disneyland Paris. According to its managers, its success is attributable to an original concept and the desire to remain innovative.
This place is special because there's always something new going on.
Jill Renslow, Vice President of Marketing and Business Development, heads the department that manages new products, particularly events.
We host nearly 400 events a year. So what's really exciting with Mall of America is every time people come to visit, there's something to surprise and delight them. So around every corner, we have event spaces throughout our entire property. With having 5.5 million square feet, we have so many great treasures throughout the mall where we can activate and do exciting things. I'd say when I first started, we had a lot of the pop celebrities, so pop music, so everything from Britney Spears to Pink and Christina Aguilera, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. I had the whole lineup, and I got the opportunity to meet all those talent.
The mall quickly established its position in American pop culture with the help of visiting celebrities. It was also featured in the cinema world of the 90s as the backdrop to several films, including Jingle All the Way. In this Christmas movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a father ready to do anything to get the Turbo Man his son has asked Santa for, but that he forgot to buy. It was a huge box office hit, grossing over $130 million worldwide. Thanks to this visibility, the mall seems well anchored in the collective imagination of Americans. But to lure visitors back for return visits, the marketing teams needed to develop their commercial strategy.
The success for retail for Mall of America is about having unique offerings, bringing first-to-market brands, even first to the industry. We have about 500 stores at Mall of America, and that is a mix of permanent leases and temporary leases. We have a specialty leasing team that allows us to do pop-up retail to really keep it changing all the time. But it's also important that we have the consistency with some of our longer-term tenants and some of the corporate brands. That mix that we have is so important to keep it really dynamic. We want to keep things fresh and exciting. We want to have new brands all the time and really having something for everyone in this space.
A digital directory has also been developed to facilitate movement around the mall and allow visitors to find their way from one store to another. Another plus for Mall of America customers is the pricing of certain items, which is lower than in other states. Attractive tax rates in the state of Minnesota draws regular visits from the inhabitants of neighboring states.
Minnesota is one of very few states that does not charge a sales tax on clothing and shoes. It's been something that has been in place for many, many years.
It makes a big difference to customers' wallets and is a major draw for Bloomington. 1 million Chicago residents come to the mall every year, making the 6-hour journey across the territory to cash in on sales tax breaks.
For our visitors that are coming for more than a few hours or more than a few days, we have hotels. In Bloomington, we have more than 50 hotels surrounding us.
That's over 10,000 hotel rooms. They all have free shuttle service to and from the mall, so it's really convenient for travelers to get to Mall of America.
Some visitors spend several days in the mall, even getting married and spending their honeymoon there. In fact, many couples have tied the knot at the Mall of America. One of the stores, the Chapel of Love, is dedicated exclusively to weddings and has a chapel to celebrate unions. Over 8,700 so far.
You are husband and wife. This wedding was $299, and then I think it was another $300 for their flowers. Photos probably about $700, video $200. Bye-bye.
With 100,000 visitors per day, the Mall of America is also a big generator of waste, such as packaging and leftover food from the thousands of meals served here every day. As a result, the mall has worked hard on its recycling to reduce its impact on the environment. Today, more than 70% of its waste is recycled, amounting to 32,000 tons per year, including 2,400 tons of food scraps.
Recycling is we take very seriously. We recycle about 70% of our waste here. Initially, it wasn't that high, but we've redeveloped processes to really capture a lot of things and use them in an environmental friendly way. For example, the food waste. All of our restaurants, all their table scraps and unused food, that all gets captured and separated out. And that food waste goes to our recycling center. And then we have a contractor who's a hog farmer who actually takes that food waste and feeds it to his livestock. And then that livestock comes back in. So it's a really kind of a full circle thing there. We also capture a lot of the cardboard. As you can imagine, with all the products coming into this property, we generate a lot of cardboard. So we have trash rooms strategically located around the property, and then a chute system that gets it down to the sub-level that allows tenants to bring those things to those trash rooms where we have a waste recycling team capture it and bring it to our central location where it leaves the property.
Among the mall's 750 employees, 100 or so work on daily maintenance, handling recycling as well as cleaning. This department has continued to grow since the 1992 launch. Many of the people still working here today were hired the day the mall was opened.
We had hired people prior to opening day, but we hadn't hired enough. So on opening day, our human resources folks were interviewing people, just running them through the process. Interviews lasted maybe 5 minutes. Paul, I'd love to tell you about one of our housekeepers, Paul. He interviewed on opening day of Mall of America. His interview lasted 5 minutes. They said, "You're hired, go clean the South Food Court." There were a couple of issues. One, he didn't have a uniform, he had no equipment, he had no training, and he didn't know where the South Food Court was. So for 2 straight weeks, Paul went to the North Food Court and loved the job. After 2 weeks, we called him up and we said, "We're going to have to let you go. You haven't been showing up to your work area." He said, "I've been coming every day in the North Food Court." To this day, 30 years later, Paul is a housekeeping supervisor on the North Food Court, the one he can find, and he loves it.
The mall is not just a provider of jobs. According to its communications manager, its impact is even broader because company profits are taxed, with the money raised used by the state for the benefit of all.
Since opening, Mall of America and our tenants have generated far more than $1.5 billion just in sales tax revenue. Most of that goes to the state, some to the city, but that $1.5 billion in sales tax revenue, that helps with schools and clinics and hospitals and roads and teachers.
In addition to these indirect benefits, the mall supports local communities and associations. $12 million is reserved each year for hundreds of nonprofit organizations.
So an example of one of our community events that we've done for multiple years is Free Bikes for Kids. So we've actually partnered with this organization where they take donations of bikes that may no longer are being used or they might be broken, and they actually have people that come in and donate their time to fix up all the bikes, to clean all the bikes, and to get them ready so that they can redistribute them out to kids.
To maintain its success through the years and continue to attract customers, the Mall of America's managers are careful to uphold the philosophy of its founders.
I think our biggest challenge is having the courage to remain daring, to remain visionaries, and to take chances. If we get to the point where we think, we've got it all, we've done this, we've figured this out, that's the day we start going downhill. But every morning that we wake up as a team and we enter this building and we think, what can we do better? What can we do that's new? What new technology, what new attraction, what new inspiration? What new service can we bring to our guests? How do we create more memories? And if we keep dreaming big, we'll be fine.
What makes the Mall of America so special is its ability to innovate while remaining rooted in its local region and history.
When you visit the theme park, you will see home plate where the baseball players hit their home runs. You will see the red chair up on the wall. That chair is the exact location where Harmon Killebrew, a hometown hero, hit the longest home run in Mets Stadium history, more than 520 feet back in 1965. Amazing home run, and it's part of our history. Sports history is tracked and it's preserved inside Mall of America.
With this philosophy, the facility has continued to attract tens of millions of visitors, young and old, from all over the world for the last 30 years. Visitors who travel thousands of miles every year to come and discover this extraordinary construction, run by over 10,000 employees, where staff and management are united by a shared ambition to mark history through the monumental scale of their surroundings.